Let me tell you about the time I almost lost everything I loved to a woman who thought a neighborhood HOA gave her the right to rule the whole damn mountain. Yeah, you heard me right. Picture this. It's the dead of night, colder than a tax auditor's heart, when someone starts pounding on my cabin door like they're collecting souls. Not just noise complaints. I thought it was a raccoon on Red Bull. I was wrong. Here's the real kicker. It was the president of the local HOA, Bethany Reed. May the Lord have mercy on her soul, dressed in a bathrobe and slippers, clutching a flashlight like a scepter. And she wasn't alone. She brought two deputies who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else, maybe in a donut shop, maybe on a beach in Mexico. Me? I was standing in my flannel and boxers, heart jackhammering, trying to make sense of the circus on my porch. "You're in violation of emergency aesthetic protocols," she shrieked, waving a notice like it was the 10 Commandments. At 3:42 in the morning. I mean, who does that? You know what I mean? My wife, Sarah, comes up behind me, cool as lake water, bare feet and a raised eyebrow, whispering, "Did she just say HOA?" Yeah, that happened. Out here, in the woods, we expect raccoons, maybe a lost fisherman, but not a suburban coup at the crack of dawn. Bethany launches into a rant about view sheds and lake ambience, accusing my cabin, my grandfather's cabin, of polluting her precious cul-de-sac with excessive lumens. Never mind that her cul-de-sac is a solid mile and a half of switchbacks away. But Bethany treats facts the way a cat treats a closed door, with contempt and relentless scratching. Now, I dealt with Bethany's friendly reminders for months, anonymous letters, snide comments at the grocery store. The whole passive-aggressive starter pack. But this was something new. She had paperwork. She had deputies. She had a folder so thick it could have doubled as body armor. I opened the door, just a crack. "Bethany, you don't have jurisdiction here. My family's owned this land since before your HOA was a twinkle in some developer's eye." She practically shoved the notice up my nose. As of last month, our board extended aesthetic jurisdiction to all properties within a 3-mile visual radius. She said this like she was handing down gospel, but I noticed her hand was shaking. Maybe it was the cold. Maybe it was the power trip. Hard to tell at that hour. Jake, the younger deputy, tried to interrupt. "Ma'am, like I said, we can't," but she shut him down with a flick of her wrist, like a magician sawing sense in half. She ranted about anonymous reports of suspicious roof angles and potentially hazardous chimney emissions. I almost choked laughing. Sarah whispered, "Ask her what statute covers suspicious roof angles." I could use a laugh. That's marriage for you, finding comedy in a midnight siege. Bethany would not be deterred. "If you refuse inspection, we will escalate. Daily fines. Liens. Legal action." Once upon a time, those words might have scared me. But I'm an engineer. I know that pressure only means something if the walls are weak. And right now, all Bethany had was noise. The older deputy, tired as a graveyard shift, finally spoke up. "Mr. Cole, you're not obligated to allow an inspection tonight. We're just here because Ms. Reed requested our presence." "Sarah, my secret weapon," reminded Bethany. "Our deed predates your HOA by 42 years. Clearwater Bluffs ends at the county road. The county sent your attorney a letter in writing." I could see the flicker of uncertainty in Bethany's eyes, just for a second. But she was too far gone. "Well, letter or no letter, the community has expectations," she snapped, hand shaking as she taped the notice to our porch post. "You will comply, one way or another." She tried to stare me down, but her eyes were glassy, her voice thin. I just eased the door closed. Not slamming it. Not yelling. Just taking back an inch of peace at a time. She hollered through the gap. "You and your little lake cabin are in violation. I will protect this community if it kills me." That's what worried me, honestly. When the world finally quieted, Sarah and I just stood there, watching red and blue lights retreat into the trees. "That's one way to start a morning," she muttered. We didn't sleep after that. We just sat, waiting for whatever would come next. And boy, did it come. At dawn, Sheriff Marcus rolled up. He's one of those guys who could break up a bar fight just by walking in the door, steady, no nonsense. He said, "Bethany's tried this before. For landowners up the ridge last year. Same playbook, paperwork, pressure, manufactured emergencies. Most folks just caved. Easier than a court fight." Sarah blinked. "4? That's a pattern." Marcus nodded. She knows who to target. People who don't want to fight. He looked at me, slow and careful. But you're not most folks. Turns out, Bethany had been courting a developer from Denver, trying to make the mountain look like easy pickings. She filed a petition to annex our land, claimed the cabin was abandoned, tried to sneak it through county approval while assuming nobody'd notice. But Sarah's a lawyer, damn good one. She pulled up the petition on her laptop, scrolling through Bethany's lies and scribbled notes. Property owner unlikely to contest. Remote location. Limited legal sophistication. Oof. She really thought we'd just roll over. Sarah said, she thinks we won't fight. I said, she thinks wrong. We marched down to the county office, filed formal objections, attached deed records, and flagged every complaint Bethany had dropped. The clerk took one look at the pile of fake violations, chimney swagger, unauthorized rusticity, window incompatibility, and started laughing. About time someone stood up to her, she said. Back at the cabin, we discovered Bethany had escalated. The porch was plastered with notices, dozens of them, taped up like angry wallpaper. There was a drone now, buzzing over the trees, filming every move we made. 2 retirees in reflective vests crept along the boundary line with clipboards, muttering about reflective consistency and terrain compatibility. I told them to step off my land. The woman radioed back to Commander Reed. That's right, she had her own radio call sign. Sarah almost lost it. Did she just call you the target? She hissed. We watched the volunteers disappear down the hill, their vests flashing like trout in a creek. This was no longer neighborhood drama. It was a siege. And then the real twist. Bethany's own husband showed up. Nervous, wringing his hands. She's not well, he whispered. She's convinced you're trying to destroy her. She's locked herself in the office, drafting emergency directives. Please, just be careful. She's not listening to anyone anymore. I'd never felt so sorry for a man and so angry at the same time. That night, things snapped. A giant drone, twice the size of the first, hovered outside our porch, blinding us with floodlights. A recorded message blasted through a speaker. You are in violation of HOA condemnation protocol. Prepare for immediate compliance. Emergency property seizure is imminent. The drone dropped a plastic tube. Inside, a demolition notice, complete with a fake seal and a 48-hour removal order. Sarah just shook her head, incredulous. She forged a demolition order and violated the restraining order. This is a felony now. We packed up and drove straight to Marcus's house, laid everything out. The drone, the notice, the photos. He radioed his deputies and led us back to the cabin. But Bethany was already there, standing in a spotlight, holding bolt cutters in one hand and a megaphone in the other. She wore a homemade sash. HOA Commander, scrawled in Sharpie. She shouted, You have resisted correction. Under HOA Supreme Directive, I am authorized to seize this property for emergency aesthetic preservation. Her words echoed off the lake, unhinged, desperate. Marcus tried reasoning. Bethany, put those tools down. She didn't listen. She charged the gate, swinging the bolt cutters, shrieking about property values and order and community collapse. Deputies moved in. They didn't tackle her, just steered her away, calm but firm. As they cuffed her, she screamed, This is your fault. You're destroying everything. Her voice broke, the floodlights hummed, and the mountain, finally, felt like it could breathe again. Marcus looked at me, tired but resolute. This had to happen. For everyone's sake. Bethany's husband stood by the ditch, hollow-eyed, muttering. She didn't want help. She wanted control. The next morning, the mountain felt lighter. The HOA board was in meltdown. Turns out, half of them didn't even know about Bethany's expansion petitions. The other half pretended they did, but couldn't explain any of it. Tom from down the road dropped by with coffee and gossip. Guess she built a whole beautification council out of thin air. Nobody wants to admit they let it happen. Sarah and I picked up the last of Bethany's relics. A pink hair roller, a fake demolition notice, a heap of violation slips. We tossed them in the fire pit. Souvenirs from a nightmare. Then we walked down to the lake, boots thumping on sun-warmed planks. The water sparkled, clean and quiet. Peace, at last, whispered its way back. So here's my question for you. Where does community end and control begin? How far would you go to stand your ground, to protect what matters, even when the enemy wears a blazer and a sash instead of camouflage. If you've ever had to fight for what's yours against an HOA or anything else, drop a justice in the comments or share your story. Let's talk about what real boundaries mean, because peace is worth protecting. And sometimes, the wildest storms don't come from the sky. They come right up your driveway, swinging bolt cutters, desperate to make the world match a fantasy no one else believes.